Hello everyone, this is Mike History 2 and welcome to a video today that I will be doing about the Bandeirantes. And I hope I didn't pronounce that too badly. I'm actually in university right now and have been taking Portuguese for about 2 weeks. So my Portuguese won't be great, but if I'd made this even like 3 weeks ago, I probably would have pronounced it Bandeirantes. So, you know. At least you have something there. So, anyways, the Bandeirantes were slavers, explorers, adventurers, and fortune hunters in early colonial Brazil. They are largely responsible for Brazil's great expansion westward, far beyond the Tordesillas line of 1494, by which Pope Alexander VI divided the new continent into a western Castilian section and an eastern Portuguese section. Now, before there were Bandeirantes, there were Paulistas. Brazil was originally a coastal strip between mountains and sea dominated by slave-worked sugar plantations. When the Portuguese crossed the mountains to the Sao Paulo plateau, they were cut off from the sea and faced a great wilderness to the north and west, where they might find their fortunes or die trying. The coastal Portuguese used African slaves, while the Paulistas used native slaves or workers, and many were actually part native themselves. The main focus of the Bandeirantes missions was to capture and enslave native populations. They carried this out by a number of tactics. Bandeirantes usually relied on surprise attacks, simply raiding villages or collections of natives, killing any who resisted, and kidnapping the survivors. Trickery could also be used, and one common tactic was disguising themselves as Jesuit priests, often singing mass to lure the natives out of their settlements. Now, you see, at the time, the Jesuits had a reputation as the only European group who actually treated the natives somewhat fairly in the Jesuit reductions of the region. If luring the natives with promises did not work, the Bandeirantes would surround the settlements and set them alight, forcing inhabitants out into the open. At a time when imported African slaves were a lot more expensive, the Bandeirantes were able to sell large numbers of native slaves at a huge profit due to the relatively inexpensive price. By the 17th century, Jesuit missions had become a favorite target of the expeditions. In a bandeira that took place in 1628 and was organized by Antonio Raposo Tavares, raided 21 Jesuit villages in the upper Paraná Valley, ultimately capturing about 2,500 natives. A bandeira tactic was to set native tribes against each other in order to weaken them and then enslave both sides. In 1636, Tavares led a bandeira composed of 2,000 allied natives, 900 Mamelucos or mixed European and natives, and 69 European Paulistas, to find precious metals and stones and to capture natives for slavery. This expedition alone was responsible for the destruction of most of the Jesuit missions of Spanish Guayra and the enslavement of over 60,000 indigenous people. Between 1648 and 1652, Tavares also led one of the longest known expeditions from Sao Paulo to the mouth of the Amazon River, investigating many of its tributaries, including the Rio Negro, ultimately covering a distance of more than 10,000 kilometers. The expedition traveled to Andean Quito, part of the Spanish Viceroyalty of Peru, and remained there for a short time in 1651. Of the 1,200 men who left Sao Paulo, only 60 reached their final destination in Belém. In addition to capturing natives as slaves, bandeiras also helped to extend the power of Portugal by helping it to conquer the Brazilian interior. Along with the exploration and settlement of this territory, the bandeiras also discovered mineral wealth for the Portuguese, which they had previously been unable to profit from. In the 1660s, the Portuguese government itself offered rewards to those who discovered gold and silver deposits in inner Brazil. So the Bandeirantes, driven by profit, explored the depths of Brazil not only to enslave natives but also to find mines and receive government rewards. As the number of natives diminished, I wonder why, the Bandeirantes began to focus more intensely on finding minerals. The Bandeirantes were also responsible for the discovery of mineral wealth, and along with the missionaries, for the conquest of central and southern Brazil. This mineral wealth made Portugal very rich during the 18th century. As a result of the bandeiras, the captaincy of São Vicente became the basis of the Viceroyalty of Brazil, which would go on to include the current states of Santa Catarina, Paraná, São Paulo, Minas Gerais, Goiás, part of Tocantins, and both northern and southern Mato Grosso. The Bandeirantes were also responsible for unsteady relations between Spain and Portugal, as they basically conducted an undeclared war on native residents allied with the Spanish or the Jesuits, with only a few outlying Spanish settlements surviving and the majority of Jesuit missions overrun. The control by Portugal over most of what is now the southeast, southern, and central west territory of Brazil was recognized by the treaties of Madrid in 1750 and San Ildefonso in 1777. Also in 1759, Portugal officially expelled the Jesuits, which reduced the ability of the Jesuits to fight back even further. Now, what is their legacy? Well, the Bandeirantes are generally considered heroes in traditional Brazilian historiography. However, some protests in 2020 have brought up the more unsavory aspects of the Bandeirantes' activities to light, especially their enslavement and oppression of the natives and some of their greedy actions. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this and have a nice day.